Hello, everyone, and welcome back. As always, I'm your girl, Candy Washington, and let's dive into today's episode, which is dissecting the latest episode of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and also talking about the ladies in general. But before we dive in, go ahead and like, subscribe, and share. Don't forget, as you come into the room, be sure to drop your candy canes, say hi, where are you watching from, and all of your questions and comments. So with that, let's go. So my overall thoughts of last night's episode is I think it's a bridge episode. And what I mean by that is I think it's setting up a lot of things. I think it's setting up the whole thing between Erica versus Sutton with the whole Las Vegas thing. I think it's setting up Dorit versus Kyle, with Dorit going after Kyle and her marriage and all of that. I think it's setting up a lot of storylines that are to come. So I think it was a bit of a setup episode. With that, I am enjoying the lighter energy and that it's focusing on their lives and not just exposing people. So I will say that I think this season is going to be lighter energetically in the sense of it's not going to be as dark as last season, but I think it's going to be more real. I think we're going to get more into their real lives, their real problems, and what's really going on versus creating drama for the sake of drama, which gets dark really fast, right? So I enjoyed last night's episode. I think it was a good bridge episode. I think it's going to set up a lot of ongoing storylines. I think it also set up it's also foreshadowing. That's the word I'm looking for. It's a big foreshadow episode. It's also foreshadowing Mauricio and Kyle's separation. It's foreshadowing PK and Dorit's separation, right? So it's foreshadowing a lot of the storylines that's going to come. I also think the producers put them on notice because I think after last season, the producers were like, listen, if we're going to continue this show with you ladies, you guys are going to have to show up in a different way. So I think that's another reason why the ladies are all in line and checked, especially Erica. I feel like Erica really was put on notice, and I'll get more into it like that. More into what I mean by that in a little bit. Okay. I also think that the producers put on notice that they have to dive more into Kyle. Because if you think about it, in years and seasons past, nobody's really ever gone for Kyle in like a real way other than like Camille, right? Other than that, Kyle has always been protected. She's always got such a sweetheart edit. She's never had to truly divulge anything about her marriage or her life. She talked about her sisters. She talked about everybody else, but she never got into really her life and her marriage and what's going on with her. And I think the reason why that's changing this season is one, the producer that protected Kyle, her main producer, is no longer producing on the show. That producer left. And then also, I think after last season, with the whole everything with Lisa Rinna and with Kathy, and the audience has kind of called for holding vile Kyle to task. It's like you're not going to skate by Kyle. You're not just going to stir the pot. You're not going to ask all these questions, but not actually talk about your life and yourself. You're no longer able to deflect. So I think the producers put everybody on notice that number one, you need to keep it light and you need to keep it real and you need to put Kyle on blast if Kyle wants to save her spot. Also, don't forget Erica Jane foreshadowed this last season. Remember when she was like, okay, well, we're not just going to talk about me and Tom Girardi's legal problems when everybody else has marriage and legal problems. So we're going to start talking about everybody's problems, right? Erica Jane threatened that last season, and I think that's going to come to fruition. That's why we're seeing more about PK and Dorit. That's why we're seeing more about Mauricio and Kyle. And I think more and more of that is going to start coming out. Now, let's dive into each lady with last night's episode and just in general. All right, so when it comes to Dorit, I think this is going to be Dorit's season. She's really stepped up to the plate. She's kind of involved in almost everybody's business except for Garcelle's and Sutton's. And she's really stepped to the plate. And I think producers made it very clear to her, you want to stay on this show, then you need to get off the couch and you need to start showing up. And I think she's up for the challenge. Last episode was Dorit's episode. She was the one hosting everything. We're doing everything, Dorit. I think this season is going to be Dorit's season, and she has to really step it up. I think that she's over scheming and scamming with PK. I do believe they are separated, even though last night she gave this really weird interview with Page Six where she was spiraling. I did a video on that. Go check it out. I do think they're separated, and I think that she's over scheming and scamming. I think they've been grifters. I think they've been fraudsters. I think that now that her children are getting older and it's also being more talked about in the media and in the spotlight, I think she's kind of trying to get away from that. I think she wants to find a man who has legitimate money, and I think she's, in her mind, outgrown scheming and scamming fraudster PK. I think in the past, she was down with it. She didn't care about the insurance scams. She didn't care about the gambling debts. She didn't care about the bankruptcy. But I think now that she's older and her children are older, I think she's looking for more stability in her life. I think, she's kind of like, I'm tired of being the ride or die. I'm ready to just chill. Because her issues with PK that she talks about really has nothing to do with PTSD. Her issues with PK are, he doesn't support me. He's never around. I need him to step up. I need him to help with the kids. I need him to help with scheduling. That's why she lost her mind and was all over the place when Kyle and PK did the whole pretty woman surprise in this episode. Her first thing she said was, who's watching my kids? Where are the children? Like, if you can't trust your husband with not childcare, because it's actually his children. Like, if you can't trust your husband to make sure your children are okay for an afternoon or a night, that says a lot about your marriage. That says a lot about your husband, and that says a lot about your trust level for him. She didn't trust him to take care of the kids for like an afternoon. So the problem she's saying about PK has nothing to do with PTSD. And the reason why I think PK was like, oh, I don't understand her PTSD is because PK is like, listen, you're saying you have PTSD from this home invasion, but like low key, like you knew that we were doing this insurance scam, in my opinion. So how do you have PTSD from something that you knew we were doing so we could get this money and I could get out of this debt? So I think PK is kind of like calling bluff on her PTSD because he's like, you weren't shocked, like you weren't traumatized because you were in on the heist. What are you talking about? But I think because the scheme involved her kids being at home and her kids are getting older, I think Dorit feels like she's aged out of these schemes and scams. You see what I'm saying? Okay. Now, this is just a candy cane question, and this is just me speculating, but I want to know, when is Dorit's affair going to come out? Because on a gut level, and again, this is just a theory I have, I don't think Dorit is not cheating on PK. I think PK is cheating, and I also think Dorit is cheating. I do think she cheated with Mauricio, but I also think there's probably other guys. I don't think Dorit is just, at home long suffering while PK is in London doing him, dipping it and doing it. So I'm kind of like, when is Dorit's side piece going to want to do an expose in Page Six or TMZ or Reality Blurb or over here with us on the Candy Cane Show? You see what I'm saying? Like, I feel like something like that has to come out, especially the way she's been spiraling with the news of her separation with PK now coming out and being so public, right? So I'm wondering, and I'm time stamping it today, when is it going to come out that Dorit has, her own boyfriends on the side and what she's dipping in and doing it? Okay. Now let's keep, okay. Also, why I think Dorit keeps coming for Kyle and Mauricio in the marriage is, like I said before, I think the producers really put a battery in Dorit and was like, you need to step it up. Because for the last few seasons, Dorit's kind of just been quiet on the sidelines, just a little, mouthpiece for Kyle, mouthpiece for Erica. She hasn't really brought anything to the show. And so I think they're like, we fired Rinna, you got to step it up. And I think a part of stepping it up was coming after Kyle for everything in the news. The Morgan Wade lesbian rumors, the Mauricio cheating rumors, the Kyle not wearing her wedding ring rumors, that they're at odds and all of that. I think they put a battery in her to do it. I think it's ironic that it's Dorit when the biggest bombshell cheating allegation against Mauricio is that he was cheating with Dorit. So to me, that's very rich. Like, you're the chick who is supposed to be my best friend. You know what I'm saying? And all of this, rumors that you're having sex with my husband, but you have the audacity to sit there and grill me on my marriage. Like, what? And this is the thing. I need this season to address that specific rumor. Not in general, is Kyle cheating? Is Mauricio cheating? And I need the specific rumor addressed. Did Mauricio and Dorit have a sexual and or emotional affair? I need that specific question addressed because it is crazy to me that these people want to have Dorit and Kyle talking about the state of Kyle's marriage when we all know the biggest rumor was that Dorit and Mauricio were having an affair. I'm so confused. The side chick is grilling the wife about the state of her marriage when the side chick was the wife's best friend? Hello. You see what I'm saying? Like, I need that specific rumor addressed, or else I'm calling BS on this whole situation. I don't think Dorit likes Kyle. I think Dorit has always used Kyle as a shield and for cover. She became friends with Kyle to keep her spot on the show, right? She knew that Kyle was the anchor for Beverly Hills. And you know what I mean by anchor, starting the show and all of that, this, that, and the third. That's what I mean by anchor. And I think she knew if she aligned herself with Kyle, she would be, quote, safe. But I don't think that Dorit ever really liked Kyle or trusted Kyle because she low-key clowns Kyle. And I do think she had an affair with Mauricio, in my personal opinion, whether it was long-term, a year or so, whether they just smashed one time. I do think something happened. Where there's smoke, there's some type of fire, And even just how she just sort of like looks, what happened in Aspen when she chose Erica over Kyle, when she was, yelling and fighting with Kyle. And Mauricio, her boyfriend, stepped in and was like, ladies, calm down. And Dorit fell all the way in line. She shut all the way up and went over to Kyle and was hugging Kyle the moment her boyfriend Mauricio said, ladies, you need to relax. So there's a lot going on there. Also, a huge component that's baked into this is not just Dorit and Kyle being best friends, but PK and Mauricio being best friends. And then we see in the confessional, PK shading the hell out of Mauricio and Kyle. Oh, what would shock Kyle is if Mauricio did anything for her. That's a lot of shade for someone who you're supposed to be best friends with, PK and Mauricio. They had their whole bromance going. That's a lot of shade. But don't forget, their friendship has also, been tested and also has devolved. Number one, PK and Mauricio were supposed to do a real estate reality show together in the UK. Mauricio dropped PK when he got the Netflix show Buying Beverly Hills. He was like, see ya, PK, I'm not doing this show with you. I'm going to go do my own show with the agency and my family for Netflix, and left PK out to dust. Honestly, I'm not mad at it. I would do the same thing. If Netflix was like, Candy, I'm going to give you your own show. let's go do this, I would be like, okay, sayonara, see you guys later. We're going to Netflix. So I get it. But on top of that, though, there's also the betrayal between PK and Mauricio. Because you have to put yourself, and I know we clown PK because he's a fraudster and all of that stuff. But when you take that away and you actually just think about human relationships and dynamics, PK is also faced with the rumors that his best friend is having sex with his wife. So it cuts both ways. One, it's Kyle is faced with rumors that her best friend Dorit is having sex with her husband Mauricio. And then PK is also faced with rumors that his best friend Mauricio is having sex with his wife Dorit. And I don't care how strong of a friendship you have, when those allegations are out there, particularly how public it is, that is going to test and put a strain on any friendship where it is called into question if your wife is having sex with your husband or if your husband is having sex with your best friend, right? So it cuts both ways. PK and Kyle are in the same boat, facing rumors that their spouses is having an affair with their best friends. So I wasn't shocked that PK had all of this smoke for Mauricio in particular, and by default, Kyle, because that has to feel some type of way. You know what I'm saying? That has to feel some type of way. And then we'll get into more of Dorit's comment when I get to Kyle's about the couples and all of that stuff. But I think that's very interesting. I think that's very telling. Now, Dorit's reaction to PK's quote surprise, I thought it was super annoying and it was super over the top. Even production was like, Dorit, you need to calm down. Just go talk to Kyle. She was doing the most. I'm over the PTSD storyline. Even, PK was like, what are you talking about? You knew we were going to, do this fake home invasion for the security money, for the insurance money. Like, just stop. There was that. And then also the whole, I need to be in control and blah, 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 blah. It was boring to me. It was flat. What I thought was the most interesting part was them bickering over dinner, how she just wasn't happy and all of this stuff. And he was like, I don't know what to do to make you happy, all the control, and I need you to show up. I think that is really the core of what their issues are. PK is checked out, he's doing him, and Dorit feels like, you've left me with $1 million in tax debt. You've made me do all of these schemes. I'm raising these kids by myself, while you're doing everything. I'm no longer sexually attracted to you, and I'm frustrated in our marriage, and I want out. That to me was the most interesting part, because it was clear that they weren't on the same page and that they were unhappy. So that was the most interesting thing. She could have missed me with all the other theatrics about it. You see what I'm saying? Okay. Now let's move on to Miss Erica Jane. All right. This might be an unpopular opinion, but I'm going to give it. The reconciliation between Erica and Dorit, I actually thought was genuine as it could be for someone with Erica Jane's either personality disorder, narcissism, sociopathy, whatever it's called. I'm not a doctor. I don't diagnose. But obviously, when Erica said she didn't know how to have empathy, that's some type of personality disorder or diagnoses, right? If you lack empathy, that's something. That's some type of sociopathy or antisocial. I don't know. Again, I'm not a doctor, but there's a chip missing, right? And I think that Erica herself was realizing that something was off with her mentally when she was unable to lack empathy. I don't think it's because, like last night on Watch What Happens Live, Garcelle was like, oh, it's because she's been on the defense. Erica hasn't been able to think about how other people feel. No, you can be in defense mode and still have empathy. Erica just lacks it in general. But I do think she had some type of realization. And also, from a strategic standpoint, Erica needs allies. She knows she's the odd woman out. She knows, just like she said to Dorit, she's like, I don't have any friends. She also knows she needs allies. So I think the reconciliation was genuine because I do think there was a glimmer in Erica where she realized she messed up. And then also from a strategy point, She needs people on her side. And Dorit, for better or for worse, she's always been a very loyal soldier to Erica. She's always been. She's always had Erica's back. She's always made excuses for her. She's never really gone against her. The one time she did in Aspen, when she was actually trying to have her back, telling her to calm down when she was losing her mind, Erica made it very clear, you say one more thing to me, I'm going to expose you. And then Dorit shut all the way up. So Erica needed allies on her side. I do think we're going to see a new side of Erica. I think Erica is going to be taking more accountability. I think she's going to try and be softer, a little bit lighter. I think she's going to try to be more of a team player. Garcelle pretty much said this last night on Watch What Happens Live as well, that Erica has kind of turned a corner. Now, again, I think it's strategy. I think Erica has to. She no longer has Lisa Rinna. And also, it was very clear that her tactics last season weren't working for her. And I don't think the Tom Girardi fraud case, where it stands right now, is enough to keep Erica for another season if she doesn't change. When the fraud first came out, I think that saved her for 1 to 2 seasons because it was so juicy. It was like everywhere and we wanted answers. But I think where the Tom Girardi fraud case stands now, he's indicted. Everybody else is indicted. I think Erica will be indicted. I say in 1 to 3 years. I know that sounds like a long time. I think she will be indicted for something. I don't think the feds are going to let her get off. I think they're going to let her get comfortable. I think they're gathering evidence. There's a lot of people on Tom Girardi's camp who's already, turned state's evidence. They've already turned on him. They've all taken plea deals and they're all trying to get the best deal for themselves. And the only way to do that is to give the government something. So I do think the government and the feds have an open case on Erica, but they're being very quiet about it because they want her to get comfortable and slip up, and they want to get as much against her as possible. She may not be indicted for what we think she will be indicted for, but I'm pretty sure she will be indicted at some point. I don't think she's going to get out of this scot-free. And so I think that Erica turning this new leaf and wanting to be one of the girls, talking about, I gave up fighting with the girls for Lent. A higher power told me I needed to stop fighting. I don't think it was God telling Erica to stop fighting. I think it was the producer saying, listen, if you don't get your stuff together, then you will be in the unemployment line with Lisa Rinna. So get it together, sweetheart. It was the producers, not God, okay? That is what I think is happening with Erica, because the Girardi fraud case, I don't think is strong enough to carry her anymore after this season. So she knows she has to change. So is the change itself genuine? I don't know. I think it's more, I want to save my skin. I want to keep getting this Bravo check. I want to keep this fame. I want to get she's getting a spinoff or like a special for her Las Vegas residency. So I think she wants to stay in the good graces of the powers that be at Bravo and NBC. And I think a lot of what we're seeing with the ladies, in my opinion, is coming directly from the producers and executives after what happened last season. Because if you think about it, NBC and Bravo were brought into a lot of lawsuits and potential lawsuits with, Botgate and the racist attacks and the homophobia and the racism and all of that stuff. On top of that, NBC and Bravo are now facing multiple lawsuits with the whole Bethany reckoning and, Leah McSweeney suing them and everybody's suing them and Nene suing them and everybody's suing them. And then also how it made it to the bullying made it to Good Morning America. If on Good Morning America, they're talking about the toxicity and the bullying of the show, that to me was when it got the executives' attention. So I think after everything that happened last season and how big it got publicly in mainstream media and all of the lawsuits and Diana suing everybody, sending cease and desists and everything with her scandal, I think the powers that Erica is referring to are the executive and producers. And I think they put every single housewife on notice. And they made it very clear what's going on. That's why you're having these kumbaya moments. That's why you're having a softer Erica, That's why you have them sort of singing a different tune and it's lighter. I think everyone is trying to save their jobs. That's what I think is really going on here. So we'll see what happens. And I also think that we're going to see the true Erica come out in those promos we saw against Denise Richards, still going after her. Like, the jealousy is real. Erica, you're never going to be the sexy icon that Denise Richards is. She was a Bond girl. She was in Wild Things, married to Charlie Sheen. And she's had a, continuous career as a working actress. You're just not going to be able to ever touch Denise Richards. Leave her alone for her OnlyFans. Like, honestly, leave Denise alone, Erica. And I co-signed with Denise says. She said, you're a very evil woman. And Erica said, I am. Because Erica continuously tells us exactly who she is. When she said, I don't give a damn about anybody but myself, she meant it. When she said, I don't know how to have empathy, I don't know how to feel for other people, she meant that. When she said, I am, when she was called an evil woman, she meant that. She told us exactly who she is. She's selfish, narcissistic, a little bit of sociopath in there, or psychopath, whoever lacks empathy, that's what she is. And she's evil. And this isn't me saying this. This is me repeating what she said about herself. And like Maya Angelou said, when people show you who they are, believe them. She didn't just show us, she told us. So this isn't me calling Erica names. This is how Erica described herself. Evil, lacking empathy, and selfish and narcissistic, only caring about herself. So she told us who she was. She told us who she was. And those are all in her own mouth and out of her own words. So we'll see. We'll see. Okay, now let's move on to Miss Sutton. Okay. I really like Sutton. And I want to know your opinion on this, guys. So put it in the chat box. I am bored to tears and I'm just bored over, and I think it's a fake storyline. The whole, I want to prove myself to my ex-husband. I think that's just for a storyline in her whole, like, I am a woman, feminist, hear me war, the whole, like, not letting the man lead and all this stuff. Like, shut up, Sutton. Like, shut up. And I love you, but like, I'm not buying it. I don't think it's authentic. And I'll tell you why. Sutton has been divorced for 7 years. This isn't fresh. He's moved on. I think he might even be remarried at this point. She's moved on. Her kids are grown. You see what I'm saying? She gets $300,000 a month in spousal support. She owns businesses. She has stocks and bonds. She's buying horses. Like, Sutton is good. She doesn't have little children she's raising. Like, the co-parenting really isn't real because all of her kids are 18 and over, at least in college and out. Girl, bye. I don't think she needs to force this feminist, proving myself to my husband, I don't want men to lead storyline. Like, you don't need it, Sutton. It's boring, it's flat, and it's not true. I think Sutton and her ex-husband are fine. I think he does him. I think she does her. I don't get what the problem is. I don't need this storyline from Sutton. What I need from Sutton is, I love her quirky personality. I love her one-liners. I love her Southern shade that she throws. I love seeing her over-the-top decadence, right? I love seeing buying the horses and her Sutton boutique and her Birkin bags and flying to France for, personal Dior showings. I love that she has her, her personal assistant slash butler with her all the time. It's giving Patricia from Southern Charm, right? Her personal assistant guy who's with her all the time, house manager. I'm living for that. I'm living for her quirky friendship with Jennifer Tilly. I'm living for that. I'm living for the matchmaking and her, kind of, being this awkward first dater person and getting the matchmaker and her trying to find love. I live for all of that. That I think is enough. I actually think it's watering down my likability towards Sutton with this fake storyline about proving yourself to your ex. And that this is the thing, if you really want to have a feminist storyline like this, the storyline should be, I am proving to myself that who I am is enough. Not I'm proving to my ex-husband from 7 years ago, who gives me $3.5 million a year, that I'm enough. It's BS, Sutton. You and your ex-husband are fine. Your kids are grown. You make millions of dollars a year in spousal support. You don't have problems, okay? And that's the thing. I don't want to see problems that don't exist. I want to see you being quirky. I want to see you spending money on frivolous things. I want to see you dating and having fun and shopping and drinking and just doing your thing. That's what I want to see. Because I love that. I think Sutton's a vibe. I think she's really cool. But miss me with this other stuff. If you want the feminist thing, just say, I'm proving to myself I'm enough. Because you are worthy and enough. You don't have to go out there and become a CEO. You don't have to go out there and become a boss babe. You don't have to go out there and make all your own money to be worthy and valuable. Absolutely not. Simply because you are enough. And if you were saying that as your storyline, I would buy it. And I would want to watch that. But I don't want to see a woman, who makes millions of dollars a year in spousal support and who is cool on her own, who is enough on her own, make her entire storyline about proving something to her ex-husband that she divorced almost a decade ago. Miss me with this, Sutton. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. And Barbara brings up a good point. She says, maybe deep down inside, she doesn't feel worthy enough. If that is the case, I stand by what I said, because your worth comes from you. Your worth does not come from proving yourself to other people. Because as long as you're trying to prove yourself to other people, you will never feel good enough. Her worth comes from who she is, not from how much money she makes. Her worth comes from who she is, not proving something to a man she divorced 10 years ago. So if inside she doesn't feel worthy enough, this still isn't the right narrative. Because whether or not he validates you, you are good enough and you are worthy, and you need to validate yourself. Whether or not you make millions of dollars on your own doesn't make you worthy or invaluable. What about all of the women out there who don't make millions of dollars on their own? What about people who work regular 9-to-5 jobs? What about women who are single? What about women who are in marriages? What about women who are divorced? What about women who work regular jobs? Or what about women who don't work regular jobs? Are they less than? Are they not worthy? Does a worth of a woman come from how much money she makes without a man? No. So I totally agree with you, Barbara, and I think you're spot on with that. But I stand by what I say, and thank you for saying that, because I think that brings up a really good conversation starter. So shout out to Barbara. Thank you for that comment. You see what I'm saying? And Amy says, I think she wants to prove it to herself and as her ex. No, that's not true. She said it herself. Go back and watch episode 1 and last season's episode. She said, I want to prove to my ex that I'm smart and that I'm capable. That's exactly what she said. Go back and watch. She said it explicitly when she was talking to Jennifer Tilly at their brunch. And then she said it again either to Garcelle or in her confessional this episode. She said explicitly, I want to prove to my ex. And that's what I think the problem is. Prove it to yourself. It comes from within. You know what I'm saying? It comes from within. Exactly, Natalia. 100%. She says, I feel like being a woman is already powerful. Exactly. Exactly. I feel like, and the reason why I'm going so deep into what Sutton is saying is because I don't think Sutton means for it to sound this way. But I think as women, we always get told that we're not enough if we don't produce. You know, if you're not married, then you're not lovable. If you don't make your own money, then you're not worthy and you're not enough. You know, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. Oh, if you want to go out there and make your own money, then, you know, you are acting like a man and you're too masculine and you are belittling your husband. Then if you want to be a housewife and not work, then all of a sudden you're a gold digger and you're not good enough and your husband just, you know, pays for everything. It's like, as women, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. And then you're always trying to please people and prove things to people. You know, you don't have to prove anything to your ex-husband. Sutton is amazing simply because she is, and we all are. You know, if you are a woman, you have children, all of a sudden, you know, if you don't have children, then you're not really a woman. You're not as valuable. You know, if you do have children, what type of mother are you? Oh, God forbid you're a single mom, you know, all of that stuff. It's like you can't win. And so what I mean by that is it's time that as women, we reclaim our power simply because we are. Whatever that looks like and however it shows up. We don't have to be boss babes. We don't have to be housewives. We don't have to be mothers. We don't have to be anything. Simply because we are enough. And I think that's the narrative we need to be preaching and teaching ourselves and our daughters and our sisters, right? Because it's just, you can't win. And that's really more of why I don't like Sutton's narrative on this. And also because I don't think it's true. I actually don't think Sutton really has anything to prove to her ex-husband. I think she's doing it for a storyline. I think she's doing it for this sort of like woke feminist storyline. It doesn't seem genuine to me. And I'll tell you another reason why it didn't feel genuine was when she was with the matchmaker. And the matchmaker was like, oh, you know, well, maybe I think what's going on is that you need the guy to lead. And she was like, oh, having a man lead, not letting the man, it was just a little scripted. It was a little too on the nose. Because I think when you really feel that way, you don't say it exactly. You just kind of are it. It was just a little bit too on the nose. It was a little too scripted. It was a little bit too, and exactly like in her confessional, you know, I don't want to quote Cher, but I'm strong enough. Like it was too scripted, too on the nose. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me. You see what I'm saying? I would just rather Sutton show up and be the awesome woman she is in all of her affluence and glory, and know that who she is enough, you know? And I think that, you know, other people watching it could hear that and be like, oh, well, now I feel bad about myself. You know, I don't own my own company and making millions of dollars, or, you know, I don't have this, I don't have that. Am I not good enough? That's kind of where I'm coming from with that. You know what I'm saying? And I don't like the whole not letting the man lead thing. You know, I think that's the wrong story and the wrong narrative to put out there. You know, if it's a good man, then yeah, let the man lead. I think it's more about choosing the right man. You know what I'm saying? I think it's for storyline. I do. I think it's for storyline. I think it's for a woke, I am woman, hear me war storyline. That's what I think it is. I don't think it's authentic to her. But the other stuff I'm here for and I'm living for. Living. Okay. Now let's move on to Garcelle. Now, Garcelle hasn't had the biggest, quote, storyline yet, but she's a vibe. I just like her. I like her energy. I like how she shows up. I like how she stirs the pot without being messy, but the right type of shade. And I'm also loving her vulnerability when it comes to talking about her sons, particularly what's going on with Jax. Now, I have my own theory on what I think happened with Jax when he was like, I needed you 2 years ago, you weren't there, and all of that stuff. And he was, acting out. I have my own theory on what I think that's about, but since Jax is a child, I'm going to keep that to myself. If you guys have theories, feel free to share them. But the theory I have, I'm not going to share it publicly because he is a child, but I have my thoughts on what I think happened. But one thing I will say is that, do you guys remember when I said that, and we're going to get to Kyle after Crystal, and this one, I'll talk about it more when we do a deep dive on Kyle. But you guys remember how I said Kyle is kind of having a crisis and she's acting out like a teenager? Did you notice how a lot of what Jax was saying is very similar to what Kyle is saying? Like a teenager acting out like, I want my freedom, I want my space, I needed you then, I don't need you now. It's all very much attention-seeking behavior, very similar to what Kyle is doing with Mauricio. She's talking to Dorit and she's like, oh, I need my freedom and space from my husband. And Dorit was like, your husband? And usually, typically, when people are hurt and they feel neglected, they feel ignored, they feel like they're not a priority, as a defense mechanism, they do the opposite. I want my freedom. I want my space. I needed you then, but I don't need you now. When truthfully what they mean is, I'm really hurt because I needed you. And like Garcelle said last night on Watch What Happens Live, it was either on Watch What Happens Live or it was in the episode. I can't remember either one. But I remember Garcelle said he wanted me to see him, to know that he was seen by me. And usually when people say, don't talk to me, I need my space, I need my freedom, what they really mean is, I need you more now than ever, but I'm afraid that if I am vulnerable and tell you that I need you, you're going to abandon me again. You're going to leave me again. I'm not going to get what I want from you. So instead of saying, see me, pay attention to me, be with me, love me, prioritize me, I'm going to push you away, because that feels safer than making myself vulnerable to be hurt by you again. And I think that's what Kyle is doing in her marriage with Mauricio. And we'll talk more about that when we get to Kyle's thing. But I thought it was very interesting how Garcelle's son, talking about he wants more freedom and he wants more space and you weren't there for me, was literally the same exact words that Kyle was saying in reference to her husband. And I think even though it's a mother and son dynamic versus a husband and wife dynamic, it's still a human and relationship dynamic, right? Where someone that you love and someone that you look to give you comfort and support isn't there for you. As human beings, whether we're men or women, father, son, lovers, or whatever, we tend to still react emotionally in the same way because it's the same feeling of abandonment. So I feel that Jax felt abandoned by Garcelle, and I feel like Kyle felt abandoned by Mauricio. And they're acting out in very similar and very normal attention-seeking ways. I know myself, when I have felt dismissed or ignored by someone that I love, by someone that I needed attention from or time from, I've acted the same way. It's a very normal human reaction because you're trying to protect yourself from being hurt again. It's very normal. I think everyone, if we're being honest, have done that at some point in our lives when we felt hurt by someone we care about. It's just trying to protect ourselves, right? So I think it's very interesting, that dynamic. But I'm happy she's sharing her struggles as a working mom who's co-parenting. This is also a stickler for me when people who are co-parenting moms or dads call themselves single parents. You're not. I never heard Garcelle call herself a single parent, but I know Sutton did. She's like, we're single moms. It's like, you're not single moms. You're co-parenting. A single parent, whether it's a mother or a father, is someone who is doing everything by themselves 100%. They are carrying the emotional, mental, spiritual, and financial load of raising children's literally by themselves. That is a single parent. Sutton and Garcelle are not single parents. Again, I never heard Garcelle call herself a single parent. She said co-parenting. So I'm not talking specifically to her, but I mean, a lot of times people on these shows are like, I'm a single parent. It's like, no, you're not. You are a co-parent. You have someone who you may not be married to, you may no longer be in a relationship with, but they are still there helping you with the financial and emotional and spiritual load of raising children. Now, I get sometimes there are situations where one spouse or ex doesn't want to pay child support or things like that. I totally get that. There are nuances to it, but in general, co-parenting is not being a single parent, you know. And I just want to shout out to all the true single parents out there who have had to raise their children truly by themselves. And that doesn't take away from co-parents. You know, being a co-parent also comes with its set of challenges and setbacks and compromises and sacrifices and difficulties, of course, you know, of course. But being a parent in general comes with a lot of stuff. You know, it's not easy. Sometimes it's a thankless job, you know? So just wanted to bring that out there. But I'm happy that she's talking about, hey, you know, this is where I feel that I failed as a mother, and talking about it so she can get that support that says, no, you didn't fail as a mother. You're doing the best you can with what you have, you know? And I think a lot of people out there who are parents can relate to that, feeling like what they're doing isn't enough, feeling like their child doesn't feel loved or seen by them, feeling like, you know, I have this desire to still work and have a career, but I also have a desire to be present for my children. I don't know how to do it all. So I'm really happy that she's sharing that story and not pretending like everything is just roses and hunky dory and there's no issues going on. And then last night I watched Happens Live. She's like, you know, Jax, I want you to tweet out that we're in such a good place, which is true because, and this is another reason why I'm happy she's being so vulnerable about it, is whether it's talking about your challenges as a parent or your challenges in your marriage, I think it's great to say, hey, we are going through a rough patch, but there's light at the end of the tunnel. You know, we can admit that we're human and we're struggling in this moment and we can get through it. So if we can get through this struggle in this moment, you know, so can you. You're not alone. You're not the only mother or father struggling. You know, you're not the only wife or husband struggling, and you can get through it. And it's not, and it doesn't mean anything that we're bad. It doesn't make me a bad mom. It doesn't make me a bad wife. It just means I'm a human being. And in this moment, we're struggling, but we can get through it. So I really like the fact that the ladies, Dorit talking about her marriage problems, Kyle talking about her marriage problems, Garcelle talking about her struggles as a mother. I like that the ladies this season are talking about their lives, not just exposing and taking down other people. And that's why I think this season's going to be really good. And that's why I really like this season so far, is because the quote drama is actually from their real life struggles and how they're coming together to be together and to help each other out. And they're talking about their vulnerabilities and all of this stuff. And I think that is what it really should be about. It should be about, hey, yeah, I have all this money and this fame, but I'm struggling in my marriage. Yeah, I have all this money and this fame, but I'm struggling as a parent, you know? And I think that brings the humanity to it. That brings the relatability to it. And that makes me want to watch. And that makes me want to root for people on the show versus I'm going to expose you. You're foreclosed on. Your husband's gay, this, that, and the third, blah, 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 blah. You're a racist. Like, it's so refreshing that they're focusing on their lives rather than focusing on taking down and destroying people, you know? So I like that this season, you know? So shout out to Garcelle and shout out to Sutton and shout out to all the ladies, really. I mean, Erica, we know the deal, little ticky, ticky, boom, boom. But I do like this season that they're talking more about the truthfulness of their lives, except for Miss Crystal, which brings me to Crystal. Now, this could be Crystal's last season. We gave you more than enough time to get your legs, this could be your last season, Miss Crystal. Crystal bringing her brother up to have a more of a juicy storyline. I have two minds with this. My first mind is I'm okay with it. Bringing your family on. Her brother has a very interesting story. The Justin Bieber of China. Okay, maybe. I mean, is Justin Bieber 41? I don't know. But I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But this is the thing. I thought that was fine. Bring on your family, talk about their stuff, have interesting stories. He's now in the confessionals. I'm here for it. That's fine. On the flip side of that, and also, before I get on the flip side, back to her brother, Jeff, if I was Jeff's fiance, I would have ended the engagement too. You're not going to leave me in a pandemic and expect me to still marry you. I don't think so. And that's basically what happened. He left his fiance either in China or wherever they were to come to America to shelter in place with his family here. And because the wife didn't have a certain visa or passport or something, she couldn't come. And he left her. So if you expect me to marry you to death do us part, and we are faced in a pandemic and you leave me behind to die, boy, bye. I would not marry him either. Absolutely not. So move over, sir. You got what you got. All right. So on the flip side of that, this is the biggest piece that's missing with me with Crystal. Crystal, who are you? I want to see more of Crystal's life. I want to see you having shopping sprees because you got the money. You're saying that your brother is the Justin Bieber pop star of China. Your husband is a Disney executive. He makes bank. And I also think Crystal has her own coconut water line or something like that. You have the money. Crystal, where are your shopping sprees? Where is your, you had the basement remodeling last season, but that was kind of want. Where's the home decor? Because when I watch these shows, I want to see the decadence of your house. I am obsessed with home decor. I am on Zillow, I'm on Pinterest. I am just obsessed with it. I love home decor, I want to see the over-top home decor. I want to see you shopping and splurging. I want to see you hosting, you just turned 40. You're probably closer to 41 now since season. You're 40, you're 41. You have, your Beverly Hills girlfriends. I want to see you guys going out on the town. I want to see you hosting garden parties and brunches. I want to see you being a lady who lunches. Crystal, you're boring. You're flat. You're a wet blanket. What are you bringing to the show? What are you bringing to the show, Crystal? I'm confused. Who are you? And I agree. I'm surprised how much I'm agreeing with Erica when Erica said we need to get Crystal's stick out of her butt. We do. Crystal is stuck up. She's very robotic. She's stale. And at the end of the day, she is the youngest housewife. She has the money. She should be turning it up and dipping it and doing it. I don't mean being ratchet or screaming or yelling or any of that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about give us a closet tour. Fly to London, for a shopping spree. Fly to Paris because you want beignets. Bring us something, Crystal. I want to see shopping. I want to see glam. I want to see parties. I want to see I want to see a $40,000, sofa. I want to see something. I want to see your friends. You know what I'm saying? I know the alleged group of 14 other housewives booted Crystal, but I'm sure Crystal still has a lot of Beverly Hills friends. Where are your friends? Crystal, you're 40 and you are the most boring person on the show. You should still be dipping it and doing it. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. It's crazy to me. And I don't know if Crystal's hiding something. I don't know if she's just boring and flat, this is it. Honestly, I get a kick out of her brother and her husband, Rob, more than I get out of Crystal because she doesn't give anything. She doesn't give anything. This literally needs to be her last season. I don't think it's going to get better for Crystal. I think it's going to get worse. But the reason why I think it's going to get worse is because of Miss Kyle Richards. As we all know, Kyle is bringing on her, quote, friend, sure, Anne Marie. And we know that Kyle loves a mouthpiece. She loves a puppet. It used to be Dorit. Dorit said, no longer boo boo. I've been exposed for having sex with your husband. The producers want me to go after you. See you when I see ya. And we all know Teddy is no longer on the show. So Kyle needed another mouthpiece, and word on the curb, it's going to be Anne Marie. And that's why we see in the promos Anne Marie going so hard for Crystal. Because don't forget, Kyle and Crystal have a beef. Kyle never liked Crystal. She thought that Crystal took Teddy's place. And for whatever reason, maybe because Crystal has money, her husband isn't in a bunch of lawsuits. Crystal is, 40 and young and dipping it and doing it, probably off screen. She needs to be doing it on screen, as we just said. But Kyle has always had a bone to pick with Crystal. Whether it's justified or not, she has a thing. She has a thing for Crystal. And I think she's bringing Anne Marie on to go after Crystal and to be her mouthpiece and to do her dirty work the same way Teddy always does and the same way Dorit used to. Now, also when it comes to Kyle, I think Kyle is grieving the loss of her friend. I want to be sensitive when I speculate, but I would, not that I want to know, but I would be curious to know if her friend who passed away, if her husband was cheating on her, if there was something going on with her friend's marriage. I don't know if she was married. You know what I mean? I don't know her exact story because her friend never wanted to be in the spotlight. She's not on the show. Kyle doesn't talk about her on the show until a couple of episodes of this season where she does a gala. She does like an event raising awareness about mental health in honor of her friend. Other than that, she's never talked about her friend on the show because her friend did not want to be a part of, the reality TV circus. But I wonder if there was something going on in her friend's marriage that was a catalyst or a factor in her friend succumbing to her own mental health battles, right? And I wonder if that triggered something in Kyle. Because Kyle is too angry and too pissed at Mauricio for it not to be something very deep. I think it's a lot of things. One, I think that Kyle, in my opinion, needs professional help to grieve the loss of her friend. I think that really broke something in Kyle. I think that's a huge aspect. I think she really needs to talk to someone, maybe a grief counselor. And that's why she's acting out with the weight loss. A lot of people who lose a lot of weight or gain a lot of weight, it's attention-seeking behavior. It can be a sign of depression. It can be a sign of grief, all of that stuff. The tattoos, that is also attention-seeking behavior. It's a way to rebel. It's a way to get, pay attention to me, look at me. We saw that in the last episode when she was talking to Mauricio. Oh, you don't know how many tattoos I have? Well, maybe you should pay more attention to my body. We saw it in this episode when she was just irritated beyond belief with Mauricio. It was hard to watch. When she, basically went after her mother-in-law about the tattoos, looking to get a rise out of her. Oh, you don't care? Well, Mauricio has some too. Oh, well, I have some. You don't know? And then Mauricio got pissed because he was like, well, it's my place to tell my mother about the tattoos and everything like that. Because clearly Kyle knew the mother-in-law did not approve of tattoos. And like a child, like a teenager, she was testing boundaries. She wanted attention. She wanted to pick a fight. She wanted, to get a rise out of people. She was looking for a fight. I do think it's weird that the mother-in-law, well, not weird, I guess, because you're on a reality show, but I do think it's weird that if it were the first time for the mother-in-law to bring up her concerns about their marriage was the first time at Portia's birthday on camera, that is a little weird. You would think that her mother-in-law would take her aside privately, off camera, not at Portia's birthday to talk about the concerns. But at the same time, They are on a reality TV show, and everybody needs to own it and talk about it. Just how Kyle always says, we have to talk about it, have to talk about it. So the mother-in-law was talking about it. And I agree with what the mother-in-law was saying. She was like, yes, this has happened in the past, but now it's too much. And the reason why I think the mother-in-law truly was concerned this time is because the rumors were about Kyle, not Mauricio. Except for the Dorit rumors, we know that. What I mean is, I think when the rumors were about her son being unfaithful, she was like, whatever, either she wanted to believe her son would never stray, or she just didn't care and thought, boys will be boys. And Kyle always protected and covered and said it was lies and they're happy, right? But now the rumors are Kyle isn't wearing her wedding ring. Kyle is having a lesbian affair on Mauricio. Kyle wants a divorce. Kyle wants to separate. Kyle is pissed. Kyle is out here doing the most. And I think that is what unnerved the mother-in-law, is that the rumors and the poor behavior and the speculation was coming from Kyle's side, not Mauricio's side. And I think that is what unnerved her, because it's one thing for her son to cheat. It's another thing for her son to be cheated on. I'm not saying it's right, but I think a lot of people think that way. You know what I'm saying? So I think that is really what is going on with them. And to me, Kyle is screaming for help. Screaming. On top of that, I think that Mauricio clearly does not understand how much pain Kyle is in. And I'm not defending Kyle. I'm not a Kyle fan, but I am a human being. And when I see someone who's clearly in pain, unlike Erica, I do have empathy. So even though I'm not a Kyle fan, I think Kyle is in a lot of pain. I think she's depressed. I think she's in a lot of pain. I think she's in a lot of hurt. And I think that Mauricio does not understand how much in pain Kyle is in. Because if I put myself in that situation and my childhood best friend succumbed to her mental illness and my husband was not there for me, I might be wilding out like Kyle. Hopefully, I would be emotionally mature enough to say, hey, we need to get some help here. I need some help dealing with this. We need to get some couples counseling. I need my own counseling. Let's get some help navigating this feeling. That's what I would do personally, but maybe they're not, people grieve in their own way. And I think the biggest disconnect going on here is that Mauricio doesn't understand how much pain Kyle is in from the passing of her friend and how betrayed she feels that he put the agency and working and everything else before her. That's why she said that his work, the agency, is the other woman, because he put everything else above her, because I don't think he got the memo just how much she needed him. Because sometimes when a death of someone doesn't hit you in a particular way, you don't see how it hits somebody else in a particular way. And I think when her friend passed away, it shook up her life. When people die, particularly when they die unexpectedly, particularly when they die young, because 50s now is young. It's young. You are out here dipping it and doing it in your 50s. I think when you die young, I think when you die unexpectedly, I think when you die by your own hand because of your mental illness battle, that hits different. That hits different, And I don't think Mauricio understands what Kyle is going through. And I think that sort of cracked Kyle open, where now she's like, am I happy in my marriage? Am I happy in my life? My kid, the kids are basically grown. Portia is still 15, but she's about to be in college in a couple years. The kids are all about to be out the house, and then on top of that, you're hit with Mauricio allegations of sleeping with Dorit, who is one of your best friends. And then on top of that, even though you know who you married, but on top of that, he is now also facing one $35 million lawsuit, another multi-million dollar lawsuit. And those are the only two that we are talking about, but there's so many more lawsuits against Mauricio and the agency, right? So your husband is facing multi-million dollar lawsuits, which doesn't just affect him and his business, but that could affect your livelihood, your assets, your homes, what you got going on, because that's your husband, So not only are you facing multi-million dollar lawsuits, that's a huge amount of stress, but you've lost your friend, you have public cheating allegations, and you're at the point in your life where you just don't know who you are. And I think she's going through a huge identity crisis. And Mauricio either just does not have the emotional capacity to be there for her, but I also don't think that she is communicating to him what is really the problem, either because she doesn't have her own awareness. Because sometimes when you're grieving and you're going through stuff, you're not even aware of it. You're not even aware of your anger, of your hurt, of your frustration, of your whatever you're going through. Sometimes you're not even aware of what's going on with you, which is why I do think they need professional help. I think she needs a professional psychologist or therapist. I think they need couples, and I think he needs them too. And this is not to absolve them of, their fraudulent behavior and how dirty they've done other people like Kathy and Kim and LVP. I totally get that. But I'm talking about just on a human level at this point. They need some real help. And that's why they're still spiraling now. And that's why she's talking about, well, I was hurt that he was holding hands with his Dancing with the Star partner. And, that really hurt me. And we're trying to be amicable and la, 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 la. Because she still loves him. She just felt abandoned by him. And he just doesn't get it. And they need help from a professional to really talk through everything. You know what I mean? And the gag is Ding Dong Dorit. I know she stepped up. I think this is going to be Dorit's season. And I actually really like her this season. But Ding Dong Dorit, girl. And this is why they need, and I said this earlier, and I'll say it again because it bears repeating. This is why they need to address directly and specifically the Dorit and Mauricio cheating allegations. And I really hope they do. But when Ding Dong Dorit in her confessionals were like, we used to, hang out as couples all the time, Mauricio and Kyle, me and PK. But, ever since last year or the reunion or whatever she said, we haven't hung out as couples. You think? Because everybody and their mother was saying that you and Mauricio were having an affair, and then you expect to go have tapas with them tomorrow? Like, come on, girl, come on. And I think a part of Kyle believes the rumor, but she would never let herself go there. That's why she's still friends with Dorit, but that's why they're not hanging out as couples anymore. Number one, I think PK believes it and feels some type of way, but he won't say anything. Kyle believes it and feels some type of way, but won't say anything. And that's why they're not hanging out as couples anymore. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm a pretty mature person, but if there's a rumor that my best friend is having sex with my husband and the world is talking about it, I don't know how comfortable I would be being couples friends anymore. At least it would take a long time. It would take some healing. And I would need proof beyond a reasonable doubt that it did not happen. I mean, I need some real good proof, something. I don't know. I need like Erica, I need a message from a higher power telling me it didn't happen. I'm going to need some good proof that something didn't go on given everything we saw. So, duh, Dorit, Kyle doesn't want you around her man, and PK doesn't want you around his best friend. Get with it. Talking about we don't hang out as couples anymore. I wouldn't have you around my man either. Please. Please, girl, bye. Bye. And then you can also see that Kyle is so irritated and annoyed by Dorit pressuring her to talk about her issues with Mauricio when she clearly does not want to talk about them. But Dorit wants to keep that Bravo check. Dorit wants to keep that diamond. And so Dorit is showing up to work. Dorit has clocked in season 13, okay? And a part of clocking in and a part of her marching orders is you need to come for Kyle's neck. And I think Dorit is going to come for Kyle's neck every single time because she's talked about Kyle's issues with Mauricio almost in every scene and definitely in every episode so far. She's coming for the neck because she wants to keep that diamond, and I'm not mad at it. I am not mad at it. Okay? Oof. All right, you guys. So that was my thoughts. That was my overall impression of the season so far and all of the ladies. So I want to know what you guys think. Put it down below. I will drop the link in case anybody wants to come up and share. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And I'm going to take some of your candy cane questions and comments.